All right, so I'm Kyle Thomas, founder, CEO of Provide, here to talk about synchronizing everything with Baseline. I I'm just a self-taught architect, software architect, have a security background, really got into blockchain probably around 2014, 2015, and sort of thought you really plotted on how to fill what I saw as a big void or vacuum in the enterprise space for blockchain, and it remained a vacuum. I started that in 2017. It remained a vacuum for some years, but here we are today. So just to sort of give a quick overview about Baseline quickly. Baseline is sort of an advanced technique that uses the public Ethereum mainnet as an always-on state machine or a bulletin board for proofs. It allows organizations that take advantage of this pattern to keep their data in the system of records, their system of record that it lives in today. And really, it's about the financial aspects, I think, that are the most interesting when it comes to the Baseline as a bulletin board or always on state machine. So Provide is the easy button for enterprises to take advantage of Baseline, to automate complex multi-party business processes, tokenize the output of those processes for DeFi. And the result of this is really the creation of more inclusive enterprise ecosystems. I know like some CONA, for example, sort of the flagship organization that we partnered with to work on some of these early projects. They really approached Baseline to create a more inclusive ecosystem for organizations, and really that inclusivity it creates more financial inclusivity. And so I think this is a huge thing that's been missed so far about Baseline and what enterprise DeFi really means. Provide, we're striving to like enable this new paradigm in enterprise finance that will create more financial ecosystems, and we're going to do that by collaborating with partners like CONA to offer really attractive incentives to sort of realign the incentives between buyers and suppliers. And again, this really echoes the reason why CONA, for example, wanted to even look at Baseline in the first place, which is to just create a more accessible ecosystem so the smallest suppliers in their network can collaborate in a streamlined fashion with the largest buyers. And if you look at enterprise DeFi as a public good, because it's going to trickle all the way down to families of those the very smallest participants in the ecosystem. So how do we get there? You have this trend where all these networks that have been private for so long are moving towards public blockchain, and it's happening with all of them, including, for example, R3 Corda. There was just an announcement how there's a bridge between between the EVM and Corda now. Most organizations are, just because this is trending towards public blockchain, organizations don't want to put their data on the blockchain. And really the synchronization of data between systems is very hard. Like if you have an SAP system and a Microsoft Dynamics system, two different organizations running these systems, you don't want to put your data on the public blockchain, but you want to put the proof that your business process is synchronized. So that's where synchronize everything comes from. We want to synchronize everything by way of a public blockchain, but we want to do it where there's complete privacy. No data ever gets stored on chain between these parties. Sorry. So you want to use this sort of this methodology or this pattern, to create by really creating this advanced messaging and privacy environment where you have off-chain traditional enterprise messaging services that run off-chain, communicating point to point between organizations, and if you leverage a no-code environment, you can really start to model a lot of the business processes, that you would normally see. For example, the carbon credits process. There's an opportunity there to be modeled using a no-code environment. So SHUTTLE is a product that we've created at Provide that's built using our core API, and SHUTTLE really positions us at the forefront of this baseline as a service opportunity, where you see baseline really becoming very cutting edge, very popular among it's getting hot, I guess, if you will. The SHUTTLE, we sort of come up with this no-code drag and drop sort of designer where you can, I don't know if you can see my mouse here, but you can sort of take a baseline circuit and drop it on to create a new work step. And in this case, this work step is called a purchase order, and you can essentially go through the process of creating a procure to pay process without writing code. So you have a purchase order, a sales order, a shipment notification, and you use, these are of course just screenshots. I'm bringing PowerPoint back to the enterprise, right? So shipment notification, goods receipt, and then invoice. And for the invoice tokenization aspect, this is where we really start to get to enterprise DeFi, and why this sort of all ties back to more financial inclusivity and just sort of end-to-end business process automation in general. And so you select a financial facility. You're like, okay, the output of this business process will be ERC 721, the invoice token rather. And then you get at the end this modeled workflow where perhaps certain items here are carbon credits, or perhaps certain work steps in this process produce, can produce carbon offsets for Marley's, sort of referencing Marley's talk. And at the end, you see, you have this thing that's going to go to the public blockchain. And so at the end, if you put all of these processes together, like let's say you go out and you have 1,000 processes that run that are in accordance with this model, using recursive snarks, we can roll up all of these processes into a single proof and then ship that proof using baseline to a partner like Centrifuge that can then tokenize the output of this process for the bank. And so, using this baseline protocol, there's a lot of immediate value that you can get if you're from a customer perspective, just in enterprise value. All of a sudden, there's this feature. Non-repudiation is just a feature of baseline. Really, it's built in. Consensus equals non-repudiation. Implies non-repudiation. And so you have this case where all of these that go down, that get tokenized, that get rolled up and go into something like Centrifuge, that go on the public blockchain and sold. Not only does that result in the smallest of the small suppliers getting paid immediately, but it ensures that there's not going to be some challenges that come up later on to render this whole thing worthless, because you've had this consensus the whole time that is very frictionless, and all the data lives where it should, and it's in the traditional system of record. And then there's other opportunities to create additional integrations beyond this, where workflows, where you can have additional workflows that come out of this process. And it's really gonna save tons of money for organizations, and really drive, I think, the future of autonomous operations. There's a lot of use cases. I'm not going to read all this. Of course, the slides will be made available. So a little bit more about Provide. We are working with an increasing amount of organizations, thanks in part to the baseline community. ServiceNow, we're working with ServiceNow on baselining incident response and SLAs. We've done some really awesome work with Fraunhofer, thanks to our partners in Germany at Unibright. We're working with Connects now. This not really necessarily related to the baseline opportunity, but interestingly, we're looking into this base ledger stuff as well. And how do we create sort of interoperability between L1 and L2s, in the baseline protocol context? And so now we have our provide privacy service that is offers ZK rollups, and now with our partners at Connects, it's interesting. Maybe we can do something interesting to take the output from a ZK rollup and put it in a state channel. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. So we started to provide in 2017, introduced the provide stack in 2018. A few years went by, and the market was still a vacuum. And then baseline sort of hit in 2020, about a year ago, and we joined the TSC, as Connor mentioned. And then from there, it sort of accelerated from CONA to our acquisition of the Unibright framework, and really rolling that into our stack service now. And then we're looking at we're eyeing a June 2021 release date for SHUTTLE 1.0. And SHUTTLE service now is actually January 2021. That's a typo. And then, I think things are really looking good. Just sort of give an update on Coke and how this is the Coke One North America bottlers deal, how that's going. 12 internal bottlers at CONA represents 95% of the supply chain in North America. And some numbers behind that, we're really looking at potentially tokenizing $650 million worth of invoices in 2021, really over the next 12 to 18 months, I think is more realistic. And it's gonna save hundreds of millions of dollars in operational costs for CONA using the baseline protocol, with 97+% reduction in disputes. So it's pretty much it. I feel like there's a good discussion here to be had about baseline. So I'd love to take questions.
Thanks, Kyle. So does anyone want to jump in with anything?
I have a question.
Go for it.
So Kyle, congratulations on all your success. It shows that, you guys, it's not like you came out of nowhere. You created your own luck, and you guys are really just at the right time, the right place, and things are taking off. And there's a community around it. My question would be, where are there still gaps? Where are there things that you need? Where does more support need to come from? What are the current problems or challenges? Is it just about evangelizing? Is it just about momentum? Are there technical challenges? What do you see?
I think it's about following through on the standard. We're really working, to define the standard for baseline so that more organizations can feel comfortable making use of it. So I think that's, probably of utmost importance right now. I think from a technical standpoint, there's some R&D around the ZK snark, just the snarks in general, and how we're going to do privacy across various use cases. I think there's some understanding there that's we're of course digging into. We have an understanding on how to build what we're building right now, but there's always new use cases in the future, and sort of being able to address that entire market with the right scalable privacy solutions. I think that's probably the right answer.
So I'll jump in with a question, Kyle. You showed about connectivity to Centrifuge as one specific example. I think it would be helpful for some people here just to expand a little bit more about what Centrifuge provides versus some of the other platforms out there, and why specifically it's one that you've kind of called out, because of course they are innovating in terms of assets finance, but I'm sure lots of people here would be fascinated to hear how it fits together.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I mentioned this workflow design here, and I hope this wasn't lost on folks. I was trying to stick with the PowerPoint, the UI in PowerPoint demo sort of approach. So I mentioned this workflow and how this is just an archetype of a workflow for procure to pay, and how it results in an invoice token. But really, this is like it's a non-fungible token, the invoice token. And then I mentioned how all of these can be rolled. All of these instances, for example, between bottler and supplier in CONA, for example, can be stuffed into a single roll-up, single proof. And then you can take one of those and you can ship it. You can really baseline it as part of a second work group. So as a separate work group and workflow, Provide and Centrifuge, for example, could Provide can deliver like a single provable batch of invoice tokens that have been verified across the baseline process, and then you can crack open. You could essentially crack open that proof and verify all the stuff inside of it. And so to that extent, you've got this very provable non-repudiation of claims sort of environment, where Centrifuge could then take that roll up, verify the proofs inside, and cut a token, and all of the suppliers would immediately be paid. So it's two baseline work groups and two workflows, or really a bunch of workflows in this this top level proof, and a single workflow really between Provide and Centrifuge in that case.
Kind of related to this, of course, one of the things that there's a lot of talk about right now is Ethereum's transaction volumes and the fact that it really needs to be able to scale up. Off the back of that, I think there's kind of two questions here. One is, for those enterprises that you're working with and with baseline where it is right now, is the congestion of the Ethereum network much of a problem? And then leading on from that, how do layer 2 type technologies factor into the thinking around what you're doing with Provide and baseline?
Yeah, so right now we're doing so much stuff off chain in layer 2. The only there's this right here, for example, each one of these processes, you can actually keep all of them off chain until the very final step, at which time then it's 5 to 1 at a very minimum in terms of transactions across the process until or transactions to actual on-chain transactions. And I mentioned earlier how we've begun working with Connext again, and how our L2 Provide Privacy L2 could be very interesting in the context of shipping those these proofs essentially out of our L2 and stuffing them into a state channel. Again, it's not something we're doing today. It's something that we're toying around with the idea of, and yeah, so it's sort of it's interesting. But right now we do have a scalable solution for ETH1 using the baseline approach. Did that answer the question?
Yeah. Did anyone else have any other questions that they wanted to ask on this?
Jordan here. Very nice presentation. I just wanted, out of curiosity, find out, do you have a technical solution for these roll-ups for
Jordan, we've lost
ZK proof
you.
of it?
I'm sorry. Do we have a technical solution for these roll-ups?
Yes. Is it implemented?
Yeah.
Do you have anything sort of in code?
Yeah, we do. I can add a link to some materials in the deck, and have Connor share that. Yeah, we have an implementation. We have our own Provide Privacy layer 2 solution that's doing the rollups. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's using NARC under the hood.
Does it relate to the MENA network? Are you familiar with the MENA, M-I-N-A?
I'm not. I can look at that, but not familiar. NARC is an open source privacy project out of Consensus that has a lot of promise. It's written in Golang. Our stack is written in Golang, so it was a good fit for us. I'll check out the MENA network. Not familiar with that.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? If not, if everyone could extend a virtual round of applause to Kyle for his talk. It's really cool seeing all of everything that's happening within Baseline, and also how Provide's really pushing all of this forward. I think the number of companies that they're working with is really testament to that. Kyle, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, is it best to go via the Provide website, or is there any other way you prefer people to reach out?
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter at KyleBT on Twitter. Yeah, that would work either way. But yes, there is a contact us on Provide website. Just at me on Twitter or something.
Cool. Thanks, Kyle. Okay, so just finally, next month's meetup. In order to be as inclusive as possible to different geographies and time zones, we're actually going to be running the next meetup at a APAC-friendly time zone. And so that's happening on Wednesday, the 28th of April at 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. British summertime. So we're going to have Eugene Asiv, the CTO and co-founder at Chainstack, talking. So Chainstack are one of the leading blockchain infrastructure deployment platforms. And if you just want to, run up like a Corda, Ethereum, Fabric network on some Amazon or Azure infrastructure, or just get someone to manage it for you, that's really what they excel at. So he's going to be talking about what they're doing. And then also Peter Robinson as well, who's been at Consensus for a number of years and he has a cryptography background, and he's been going really deep in kind of research mode and with his work at Consensus, and he's going to be talking about some of the great things he's been doing there.